Congressman Goldman, you have a bill that you're trying to pass that would finally bring some form of ethics guidelines to the Supreme Court. With Clarence Thomas, this story just continues to get worse and worse and worse. And I think we can sit here with the confidence tonight that we have not heard the last of it.
No, that's right. And what is so startling about this is Professor Gillers is right. It's un-American. It's contrary to the ethics we hold as a country, to the rule of law. But sadly, it is not against the rules of the Supreme Court, because there is no code of ethics that applies to the Supreme Court. And there is no investigative body that is created or designed to enforce any kind of disclosure rules or ethics code of conduct. And that's why Sheldon Whitehouse and Hank Johnson and Congressman Jerry Nadler are leading the CERT Act, which I am co-sponsoring, which would create a judicial code of ethics that applies to the Supreme Court. It would create rules for the Supreme Court to abide by. It would create an independent body within the judiciary to investigate the code of ethics. It would create disclosure requirements. All of this is essential right now to the legitimacy of the Supreme Court. And what I think the Supreme Court does not recognize, and the Chief Justice, who sent a letter to the Senate Judiciary Committee this past week, essentially reiterating that they continue to abide by ethics rules, is that the American people don't believe that anymore, as these conflicts of interest and clear corruption trickles out court as it relates to Clarence Thomas and Leonard Leo and Harlan Crow and all of these very conservative people who have been funneling money to Clarence Thomas and his family and hoping to get favorable rulings in response, which Justice Thomas has delivered. That is not okay. And it is time that the Supreme Court does something. And if they don't do anything, then Congress needs to act.
So the federal gift tax limit is $16,000. You can give anyone $16,000, and that involves no tax obligation on the part of the recipient or you in that exchange. The chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, which has jurisdiction over tax law, is now very interested in this. Senator Ron Wyden wants to get information from Harlan Crow, saying your largesse toward Justice Thomas, including whether these gifts complied with all relevant federal tax and ethics laws. And when the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee is wondering about whether you're obeying tax law, they know what they're talking about there. This story now is filled with possible federal tax violations.
Oh, it's filled with tax violations. It's filled with conflict of interest. It's filled with corruption. It's filled with ethics violations that any American would understand. And I'm glad Senator Wyden is starting to pursue this. But the Senate and the House need to haul Harlan Crow into a hearing to understand exactly what he did under oath to support Clarence Thomas, to support Ginny Thomas, to support Clarence Thomas's God's great nephew or whomever it is that he was the legal guardian for. And the American people deserve to understand the degree of intertwining finances between Harlan Crow and Justice Thomas. We know their relationship began after Justice Thomas reached the Supreme Court. So this is not a pre-existing relationship. And we need to get answers to this. And if we in Congress and in the Senate are not to subpoena Clarence Thomas, which I understand is a huge step and an issue that addresses separation of powers, we've got Harlan Crow, and he needs to come in and testify.